I will call the January 25th, 2022 meeting of the Capital Planning Committee to order at 10:02. Members in attendance are Connor O'Shea, Ryan Quimby, Jim Broderick, Paul, not Paul, you're not a member, sorry, Ralph Page, and Rich Ficero is absent. Steve, I'm not sure if you're a member or ex officio.
I believe I'm a member, but I could be wrong. I could be both.
So Steve's here too.
We'll adjust. Yeah, we'll just put it under Steve. I'm like
Yeah.
Cher. Steve's here.
So first thing up on today's agenda is the fire department capital submissions. Paul's gonna review them for us. I'd like to try and keep all of our meetings to 1 hour, and then just to be respectful of everybody's time. We'll get into a little bit later on the agenda for the meeting scheduling, but I know Tuesdays are not good for Rich, pretty much ever. All right. So Paul, if you are ready, do you want to start with your projects from your submissions? The first one up would be engine 2 replacement.
Sure.
Ryan, can I interrupt for a moment and just say a few words to the committee?
Absolutely.
Hi, everybody. Just sorry I'm late. I was on the phone with a constituent. Just wanted to thank you all for being willing to participate. Many of you for the second and third time or fourth time or 20th time. And Connor, thank you very much for stepping up to this. And Ryan, of course, as the chair, it's great. I hope by us getting started a little bit earlier this year that we can be less cramped in our scheduling. And with the comprehensive plan that's in the drive that can be shared with all of you, hopefully it'll make the review of some of these projects go a little bit smoother. So that's all I had. I just wanted to say thank you. And thank you.
Got it. Okay, Paul, tell us why we need engine 2 or a new one.
All right. Several years back, actually, when I first became fire chief, I talked about we needed to come up with a plan, a schedule to replace our apparatus in a timely fashion so the town doesn't get hit all at once trying to replace 2 or 3 apparatus at a time. And my plan back then was every 5 years we'd purchase one. And that, again, that way we're not getting hit. And that would keep us in a cycle where none of the apparatus would get as what NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, classifies them is, something that should be put out in pasture. They recommend 15 years for frontline pieces, and 20 years. It should stay as a up to 20 years. It should stay as a backup piece. We've far exceeded that. I guess the advantage for us is we don't see a lot of fires. We don't put a ton of miles on all of our apparatus, so it's a big issue. The issue with NFPA is as equipment changes and technology changes and safety features change, that's what the updates are in the equipment. It's not that the fact that the equipment can still operate, can still pump water. It's just the fact that there's been some major safety changes to equipment from the engines and the apparatus and the pumping and the emissions controls and the fuel consumption to how a firefighter, accesses the truck and gets off the truck, the seat belts, the airbags, everything to that effect. And then the warning lights, the noisemakers, the sirens, air horns, the yellow stripes on the back of the truck. So that's the biggest enhancements on the truck. Along with a few more niceties that make the job a little bit easier for the firefighters. We were able to start the process. In my eyes, it was a start. We were able to replace our 28-year-old ladder truck 5 years ago. That last lease payment is scheduled for FY 22's budget. With the help of the capital committee, we decided to go with a lease, a 5-year lease. So the fire department gets that money every year with approval to purchase. That again is done, and in the capital plan was to replace engine 2, which if and when this is purchased, depending on what the schedule for the delivery is, which right now it's like anything else, it's all over the map. That truck would probably be close to 29 years old or older when it's actually replaced, just because of schedules. We have our other truck is older than 21 years old. One of our other trucks, engine 4, it's at this point it's 22 years old. Again, both trucks still work, they still pump. We do put some money into them every year. And it's unfortunate, but we have to just to keep the trucks running so we can maintain our number of pumps and fire trucks, which helps to maintain our ISO number, which affects everybody's home insurance rates. This price, if you go back to 5-year capital plan, the price has changed dramatically. I wish I could say I could fix that, but everything we're looking at now, pricing is through the roof with stuff, and we don't have any say in it. This is the pricing's based on a competitive bid process that's already been predetermined. So it saves us some time and some money going forward. We don't really need to go out. It's Houston Galveston Purchasing Cooperative that we've been part of. We used it for the ladder truck. We used it for all our ambulances. Excuse me. Unfortunately, again, the pricing of the truck is not much I can do, but I think the truck itself fits our needs. This truck will actually, if we were to, lucky enough to get it in a few years, we would put it in the main rotation. It would be our primary truck out the door, like we've always done. We just kind of rotate it and stuff goes, out into the less use, but we still need to have it to keep our ISO numbers down. The number is just shy of $190,000 a year, a little bit less than the ladder truck. I was hoping it was going to be more further away from the ladder truck pricing, but again, I didn't have any control over it. One thing that I did put in this though is because this truck does go to quite a few medicals, we can actually classify it as a Class 5 ambulance, which would allow us to use a piece of the ambulance revenue to help pay for that lease number. I guess that number, I estimated right now, we would, say 25% of the lease number. That's something Steve and I could work on as it gets closer to the end of the year, but I'm thinking like 25% of that number. So, roughly right around $45,000 to $46,000 of that would come from that, and the rest of it would come from the general fund. Any questions on that before I turn my page?
Well,
Steve?
I'm not sure if it's the right time, but have you ever thought about, I know we usually do leases with the fire stuff for the fires and then we own them, potentially bonding for 5 years for the same amount, seeing what the interest rate is. And
that's always been a finance or accounting end. And every time I've brought it up prior to when we did the ladder truck, I don't think the town was doing any bonding. So I don't know if they just wanted to bond one truck or not. It's at that point, if that's something that the town wants to do, if it works financially, I'm okay with it. I don't have one way or the other.
I can check with the finance advisor too, and just see what the numbers are. If
Yep.
it makes sense. Okay.
Scratch that question off the list.
Paul, do you have the ISO rating for 21? The most recent one I have is 20.
They only do it every 4 or 5 years. They don't do it every year, Mary.
Okay, because so this
Yep.
March of 20 report giving us a rating of 4 is what it says
Right.
effective July 1, 20, so that's for the next 3 or 4 years.
Right. Yep.
So will the purchase of this cause them to review it while the truck is being paid for? Or do you
Unfortunately
think we're
not.
stuck with a,
We
you're making
are,
faces, can you hear me?
no, I can hear you.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't believe, even if we purchase a new truck, I don't think it's going to change the number there.
Yeah. Okay.
There's some other stuff we need to do internally that we're working on, but yeah,
Okay,
I wish it
Thanks.
would, but It's most of the biggest thing with ISO is staffing, which we've definitely increased. So I think our number may change going forward when they come back for around again for another review.
All right, thanks.
Yep. The next one is the car one replacement. It's, you know, again, about a 10-year life cycle on a car as a primary. Our plan would not get rid of the current car one, which is the chief's vehicle. We would keep that in the fleet, either as a EMS fly car, or give that to my car to the inspector, or rotate it as the deputy's car if I was fortunate enough this year to get the deputy's position. Again, the pricing on this has gone up a little bit since my 5-year capital plan. No different than the ladder truck. The pricing and stuff is just, and quite frankly, our dealer who's is off the state bid list has pretty much said in July, when it comes time to purchase this, it's going to be a hit or miss whether it's available. We may have to change to something else, a different type of vehicle than something that's available. But if that's the car, if I was fortunate enough to, get approval on this, that this would be the car of choice.
Would you have an issue with dependability with that vehicle being the inspector's car or the EMS fly car? I know sometimes the inspector goes to medicals as well when you guys get overwhelmed.
No, I mean, it's
Keep that on.
been a dependable car. It's just if mileage wise, it's just shy. It'll probably hit 100,000 miles this week or early next week. So to make sure we're keeping stuff in the cycle. Our last inspector's car was a hand-me-down police cruiser we were fortunate enough to get. We put some money into it, painted it. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any concerns with the vehicle. It's still got probably more life in it. But again, we're just not only as a replacement for car one, but we're, the staffing here is increased and our demand has increased. So, unfortunately, more apparatus, more vehicles are required.
All right.
Paul, go ahead, Ralph. I was waiting for the questions.
So Paul, from reading this, it basically sounds like this vehicle is not going to be available. They have one, and we're talking 6 months before we come up
Yeah,
with.
Chevy or GM has allocated so many for state bids across the country, and most of them have been purchased by the dealers. So like he said, it's going to be, and there are other dealers across the state that I could, tap into, in July if this goes forward. But for now, that's the pricing, and that's kind of where it's at.
I'm just curious. I mean, is there any guesstimate? I mean, obviously by July, the price is going to go up. The price never goes down, it seems.
Right. That price
Numbers
is
pretty accurate.
Yeah, that price is supposed to be accurate for this fiscal year. Well, no, I'm sorry, going forward into the fiscal year. So it should be stable through July for that.
Okay.
Brian, I had just a couple of questions. Paul, this sounds like it'll be an additional vehicle with the hope or understanding that if you get an additional position, it'll be available for them. I kind of now realize I should have replaced my car quite a while ago, because I'm well over both of those criteria for that you have for mileage and age. But does it besides, obviously bringing the chief to wherever you need to go, does it provide emergency services or like primary kind of, services in that respect, or is it basically your transportation to go where you need to get to?
I respond, I'm available 24 hours a day to respond. So it does provide emergency services. And a couple times a week, there was a call the other day at on Benton Drive for a medical. They needed a third medic. I was his chauffeur because there was nobody else in the building. And instead of leaving a car parked there as that ambulance is going to the hospital, I ended up giving him a ride. So it is in use as the inspector's car is now. Yeah,
And for the fire side too, when there's an actual working fire, you need to get there
right,
reliably.
right.
All right,
Steve.
Chief. So if you had to boil down your use of this car, is it more, because you said there's some life into it, and estimating years wise, I know you can't really, but because a new car, even if you order today, is going to be what, at least close to a year, probably till you get it. Is it more in case you get the position and you need another car for the deputy, or is it?
I guess it's Steve.
ahead.
I guess it's who you ask within the department. If I didn't get the deputy, they would like to see the inspector take this car and the inspector's car be the EMS fly car,
Okay.
or vice versa. If you ask me, I hope I get the deputy position this year, and then this car would be his car
Okay.
or hers.
And did the dealer have any kind of estimate of delivery? I know they can't pinpoint it these days, but just in general?
No, right now he's saying if I were to purchase it today, it would probably be like a 10-month delivery.
Okay, all right.
So being optimistic that you are successful in getting the deputy position, does that mean you have a need for an additional car on top of this?
I would try to operate the way we're operating now and use that inspector's car as an EMS. The only time that inspector's car is not available as a fly car is when he works that Monday through Thursday shift, daytime shift. But other than that, they use that, at night, Thursday and Fridays, Saturdays, and on the weekends.
Questions on car one replacement from anybody else? All
Not a
right,
question, but it seems like either way, no matter which way the department goes, staffing wise, it's probably something that could be useful.
Right.
all right. Your next on the list is Rescue 3, second lease payment of 3. That's kind of an easy one.
Yeah, that's just, and that comes right from the ambulance receipts. So nothing from the general fund. It's just the second year payment of our third ambulance.
I just had a dumb question on that, because the way it read, it's second year of a 3-year lease with the ambulance expected to be delivered in December 2022. So that almost sounds like we're paying on the lease, but we aren't going to get the ambulance for another year. Is
Right,
that-
we have a prepayment discount on the ambulance itself and the equipment. So we started paying, the first lease payment is due upon signing of the contract. So actually the bill's going in today. And then annually after that, it's probably not gonna, it'll probably be due right around the time the ambulance comes in currently. Depending on, again, the schedule of Ford and the schedule of the ambulance manufacturer, but everything's holding true right now. I'm hoping for December 22 delivery.
Okay. Never heard of it before. All right, thank you.
All right, next up is the Firefighter bunker gear staggered replacement.
Yep, this is, we had it on last year. It's also been part of the 5-year capital plan. Pricing's a little different. Actually, I think it was a little lower than what I had for the 5-year for FY23. We're trying to, NFPA recommends, and because of the carcinogens that the firefighters get in their gear. And again, we don't have a lot, but turnout gear needs to be replaced every 10 years. After 10 years, no matter how much use the gear has had, you're not supposed to use it anymore. They say it's not safe anymore. And they also say that, firefighters should have 2 sets. We're not at the 2-set phase yet. We're close, but we're not at the two. But this ensures that our cycle maintains that all of our firefighters will at least have a set of gear that's less than 10 years old, but it saves the town from going out and having to buy 26 sets all at once. So this allows us to make sure we have sets in the building and everything's compliant with the standards. Any questions?
Go ahead, Ralph.
So Paul, I noticed Steve had sent us a list of outstanding capital projects, and I noticed in the last bunker gear, there's still some pieces or something that haven't been supplied.
Yeah, we're waiting. Unfortunately, my vendor, I was trying to get some because of some new hires, we were waiting for academy dates and stuff like that. And I was trying to get the current pricing, and my local vendor had a stroke and he was unable to get back to me. So now we're in the process of changing vendors because the company that actually he worked for is no longer on the bid list because this is the guy that took care of all that stuff. So I'm kind of in a holding pattern right now. I got a new vendor, but I'm just waiting for them to get our account activated with the manufacturer. And that way we get the best pricing.
I just wasn't sure if there's certain parts of this set and all that are more difficult to get than others, or
The delivery time went out a little bit at the beginning of all this, but it's nothing like the vehicles. Yeah, it's instead of being 6 to 8 weeks, it's more like 8 to 12.
Okay.
So, which isn't unheard of. But Jim.
And so, Paul, is this something then, by the time we're done replacing it, we're gonna start replacing it again? So is this like 22,000 every year on the capital
I
plan?
don't think so. I think we're gonna have a free year, a couple years in there. And I've been fortunate enough to get a couple small grants that helps chip away at it as well. So I have it in for 5 years, but I don't think we're gonna use all 5. So again, with this grant, and if the state keeps the grant coming, we can chip away at it with that as well. It's not a huge grant. It's $19,000, but the good part about it is, and I'm not using it just for some gear, it's there's no town share. It's just it's money for the town that we don't have to match. So
I think kind of what Jim, I think you were alluding to is, does it make sense to move this to more of an operational expense instead of a capital expense?
Well, at some point, depending, yeah.
Yeah. If it's just going to be every year is the same type of thing, you're going to know about the bunker gear a lot better than any of us really are.
Or are you
Yeah.
doing it on a potentially rotating like every 5 years thing, like the cars, something like that?
buy them all every 5 or?
Just rotate it out, do a staggered one, then rotate it out
Right.
every couple of years, every 5, it's however long.
Well, that's
they
what I'm
want.
trying to get on this cycle now with this is so every 10 years, I mean, every year we're buying a few, but it may go down. We may be below the threshold for a capital, and it may just fall right in the operating budget.
Okay.
Do you see a need to get to the standard of having 2 per, or do you think we're adequate with 1 per?
It is important and we do, again, we have a few that are at the 2. It is important, just coming back at the end of a call. We just had that basement fire the other day on Summers Road. You're coming back, your gear is just loaded with stuff. And to put it back immediately in service, now you're risking the firefighters' long-term health concerns. Whereas if he can come back and just open his tote up, take that other set of clean gear out, and then take his other set and wash it correctly, because the washing process, it's an hour or so through the washer, but they don't recommend drying it. We have air dryers, but it's a 24 to 48 hour process, depending on what type of weather's in the apparatus bay at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do see the importance of it. Again, we're not Springfield. We don't have a lot of fires, but the past couple of months we've had our share. We go through cycles.
All right. Any other questions from anybody on the bunker gear? So the next thing you have up is the public safety complex consultant study.
Yep.
I'm not sure if you want to kind of talk about your side of it, or if you want to wait until we have Mark in a meeting.
I could just talk a little bit about my side, and then if you want, I can come back with Mark or if anybody's got any questions. This is brand new. Mark came in as a new police chief. I know they just had a study done on the police department, and I'll let Mark talk about his end. On my side, the fire station was built 25 years ago now. We moved in. The building is still in decent shape. We've outgrown the facility. And I did notice on the agenda, you guys, one of your items on there was talking about maybe going to look at buildings and facilities. I'm definitely open to that. If anybody wants to come in and see how our operation has changed our layout. We have, we weren't designed for 6 firefighters staying 24 hours a day in here. We were, a 7 career man department with, working Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Our office space has changed quite a bit. We have more people that are required to do more stuff. The apparatus bay is extremely crowded with the equipment. So I think in talking to Mark, we, one of his plans is to consider a public safety complex. And again, I don't know, again, this is the first time it's been on, so I'm not sure where it's going. But I would, even if it the money doesn't get approved, I think a committee to at least start talking about the feasibility of it and the potential for it, to put more information in front of the capital committee, the finance committee, and then going forward in front of the town council and the town manager. This is a multi-year project that's probably gonna not really get super heavy traction until, before I'm gone. So, but I think it's something to really think about. The pricing, the paperwork you have in front of you is 30,000. I got that back from Bruce. He has suggested that we up that to 40. I mentioned that to Ryan, and he asked me to hold on to that paperwork until after today, or maybe even after Mark talks. But again, something to think about for the future. Maybe it goes on next year's plan, or depending on how tight things are this year. And I don't know if this is something that ARPA money could be used for. It's kind of infrastructure stuff, so who knows?
Where'd the 30 come from Bruce, did you say?
It was an estimate. It was an estimate. Unfortunately, he didn't remember giving it to me, but it was a verbal estimate. And then we talked about it after I had submitted this, and he goes, I don't think that's enough. He said 40, just because of his knowledge of what's been going on in the industry.
Any other questions, Ralph?
Of course, I've got a question, Ryan.
Yeah.
Paul, as you said, we just had the study done, which I have not seen on the police side of it. I'm assuming when they did that, they looked at what the needs were going to be for our police department to make recommendations. So, I mean, again, I may be way off, but I would assume they could take bits and pieces of that, considering they've already analyzed it as they're looking at a whole new facility, instead of redoing it again. I would hope that
I would think so.
Cost down a little bit, but
I'm not sure what's in that study, Ralph, exactly how. I know there's a modify the existing building, and then there's a new facility. But other than that, I mean, I would hope it has that type of information that they could just kind of take that new facility and then group it with a new fire station, if that was what the plan was. But yeah.
That prior study, Ralph, was rather sketchy. It gave us some numbers, which is all you have, because that's all they gave us. They gave us a rehab number as well as a reconstruction number. I know DPW Joe Dunn wasn't too happy with the explanations for a lot of things. Neither was Chief Williams. So it's kind of still a work in progress, but that was done by Hill Architects. I think they're local, but there were some gaps in the explanation that nobody was really happy with. So that's still being discussed, from the best of my information, by Joe and chief. But to your point, they did itemize certain elements or aspects of the police station facility that to be replaced would cost X number of dollars. But I think the dispute was over. I don't want to talk without the report in front of me, but it was quite incomplete. So.
One of the advantages to a public safety complex, not either adding on to my facility or a Mark's facility, because I don't believe we can do anything here externally because of the ground, how it was originally built and where it was originally built. But that, if we moved out of this building and the police department moved out of their building, that would open up both of those buildings for other town departments. Public Works would fit nicely in my building, which would open up a lot of space at the town hall. I think there's some feasibility that would need to be looked at, but office space for Public Works up here would be nice, and it would give them a little more bay space. And then an access road built behind here right to the transfer station might help out. Police department, IT, or rec, or both. That could, free up some space at that building and free up some classroom space at the, because who knows what's going to happen with the school. Ryan's going to be looking for a home when they tear that down. But
I'm moving into the new place.
just food for thought. So again,
Jim.
never been on before. Jim?
Yeah, a couple of questions, and I may just have missed it. I got all the capital requests for the fire department. I didn't happen to see the 5-year capital plan cover sheet. Did I just miss that, or?
I don't believe we had one this year.
No,
Yeah.
Okay, because I just was interested in seeing, like, the questions about the breathing apparatus and their other things in terms of what's on your docket for the, at least your thoughts for the next 5 years.
Yep. All right, I can put something together. Is there
Yeah.
excuse me, is there an official form for that, Steve? Or you want us to try and bootleg last year's?
Like
For a 5 year.
right now, we've been updating the one that the updates come from the one that was used a couple of years ago. And then Ryan, I know,
Okay.
modified it last year. So I would use the one from modification from last year, and I will follow up and send you the updated ones that we had. I thought I had, but if I haven't, I'll send you the update of where we are in each project that Counselor Page
Okay.
referenced.
So my other question, I guess, was all of the capital requests, Paul, have a priority number 1. So I was curious if you would be able to prioritize within the fire department your projects as to which one is the most critical, second most, et cetera.
I would say the fire engine would be number 1. The car would be number 2. And I would keep the ambulance out because that's a different account, I guess. I would keep that as EMS or ambulance account as a number 1.
I really need to
So
prioritize that.
I'm sorry, what, Ryan?
So you don't really need to prioritize that. It's kind of something.
Right. So I would
need.
fire engine number 1, car number 2, bunker gear number 3, and then the feasibility study. I know Mark would like to say number 4, and number 1. And for me, I think internally, I got some other stuff I'd like to see. So if I would say that for our side, number 4.
All right, thank you.
Yep. I didn't want to do that on my paper, though. I guess I was kind of hoping everything could stay at number 1. I know it doesn't work that way.
Surprisingly not. Do we have any other questions for Paul? All right, Paul, you're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Same to you.
Do too.
All right, next up on our agenda. I do my agenda. Is discuss the meeting schedule. I know I had started to talk about our next meeting, and Tuesdays do not work well for Rich. How does Wednesday work for everybody? If we looked at Wednesday next week.
I am good as long as we don't get any blizzards.
As long as it's not from like 11 to 12, I can do Wednesdays.
Would 10 to 11 work, or do you have, and just do a hard stop at 11?
Yeah, as long as it's a hard stop at 11, I can do that.
I was gonna say early afternoon didn't work for me, but 10 to 11 would.
Okay,
Yeah, that works for me on Wednesdays too, Ryan.
all right. I'll follow up with Rich. I think that works for him on Wednesdays, but I'll just double check with him. Let's see. Wednesdays at 11 or 10. All right. So one of the items that ideas that was brought up previously was doing like an on-site inspection for public works vehicles. Like Paul had mentioned, the fire department visiting that. Is that something that is an interest of the committee? And if so, when in the time frame would you like to schedule it? After we have a review of all the projects first, and then we can do it on site and then start prioritization, or kind of in the middle?
Ryan? Or Jim, go ahead.
I guess I would vote in the middle somewhere, or earlier rather than later, only because I think seeing them would make our discussion about the request more valuable.
Okay.
I
Steve,
think it could be a bit of
Huh?
a high. Sorry.
go ahead. Steve's an
I think
employee,
it
so he's already
I think
here.
it could be a bit of a hybrid. I think I like hearing the presentation first, and then it would be good to tour it. So like, for example, today we heard from the fire chief, but now we could go tour the things that he was requesting to better understand the priority after we heard about it. But I wouldn't necessarily want to see like the DPW facilities before we hear what they're even requesting in person. But then I think that would help us prioritize it after the fact.
So
across
maybe
all
we
the
can,
departments.
in the next couple meetings, we can meet with schools, DPW, police, and then we can do a visit. I'm thinking that the only other department left would be IT, and I can show you a stack of Chromebooks if you want, but I think it's a little more self-explanatory. Jim?
So Connor, if I hear what you're saying, so we listen to the requests, then maybe we go out and tour the facilities before we actually do our prioritization.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
All right,
thinking.
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I was gonna say something similar on the lines of, because you might find some that it's just self-explanatory and we don't actually need to see it, i.e. Ryan's Chromebooks.
Yeah.
But others that will say, oh, wait a minute, you know, the car is gonna be another year out. At least, can this handle it? Kind of like,
And some of them might help, each individual department, I'm sure will prioritize things as 1, 2, 3, but if we see that, this truck has got a rusted out floor and this one, yeah, it's got high miles, but it'll work. That's kind of different priorities across all the departments.
All right, so I think that's a good game plan, and I'll work that into our schedule. Do we have a preference on departments that we want to see? So Public Works, police, and schools we have before we would do the on-site inspections. Who would we like to get presentations from first for Wednesday?
I would start with police maybe, because it kind of
Please.
flows nicely out of Paul's presentation, and then DPW, and then school.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, it makes, I think that makes sense. This way we can pair police and fire together. Is Paul here next week, Wednesday? He is. Okay, and I'll
I
invite
think he's
Paul.
off on Wednesday, Ryan.
He's off tomorrow, or at least on the schedule. Oh, when's he going to Disney?
He can Zoom with Goofy.
Yeah, exactly. He's got, his family made him a shirt that says grumpy, so. I'm just thinking, so him and Mark could present the study together. I'll follow up with him, but I think Mark can handle it from his side, and then if they want to reschedule, we can reschedule.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if Paul can't make it and we want to do them together, I would just flip police to the end and do it after that.
Yeah.
I suppose after that, it doesn't necessarily matter the order. It's whoever has the availability for the next Wednesday after that.
Yeah. And then having DPWs and schools kind of back to back makes sense since those projects, a lot of those overlap.
Right.
All right. Next, so we'll schedule the onsite reviewing the FY23 submissions. We got police, fire, schools, DPW, and I don't think I sent you guys mine.
No, well, I haven't seen it.
I have not sent it. We'll get that sent out to you guys today, and then we'll have them all in front of us, and we can go from there.
Ralph, do you think the council has any interest in those site visits?
I
I
can't
mean,
speak.
it was
for-
your idea from the beginning, so I wondered if you thought other counselors might benefit from a bird's eye view of things.
I think it would be something that would be nice to send out to them if they want to show up. I just think it's a lot easier to vote on something when you actually see it.
Yeah.
To see a picture of a rusted cab corner and to actually see the truck falling apart is two different things.
Right, but, and I guess my concern was in the past, I think sometimes the capital committee recommendations are always good, but the council has to vote on things, and sometimes you're voting a bit blind, other than with the advice of this committee, or, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think we should invite the counselors, and then, as you say, whoever's available or interested could come.
Yeah, I
That
think
sounds
that-
good.
I think that's a good idea.
We'll put that here. So, any old business for the capital committee? Jim?
So regarding the DPW submission, I guess my question is setting aside the projects being funded by the water enterprise or the sewer enterprise or the enterprise funds, there's still a lot of different pockets of capital plans and with their own priorities. And I kind of would love to see Bruce do the same thing that the schools do and take the facility, the school's priorities and put it into like a district-wide priority list. And it would be interesting to see, I would find it helpful to see from the superintendent's point of view, given the various divisions, which ones are actually, which one is the number one, number two, number three, number four, as opposed to each separate, division having those priorities.
So like a prioritization by funding source by department. So not,
Well, by
Would be DPW.
overall DPW, less the enterprise fund.
okay.
Kind of similar to what the schools have done for us, where,
Yeah.
they've
Yeah,
got them
different
by their schools, but then they give us a district-wide, here's our number one, number two, number three.
Yeah, I'll let Bruce know that and have that ready for his meeting. Does anyone have any questions off the top of your head that we want to forward to Mark, or would you like to get back to me via email? And we'll get those over to Mark for the police capital projects.
Have we seen police cap? Should I have already seen those?
I forwarded them to everyone. Or Mary did. Let's see here.
I haven't seen the police yet.
Capital. They went to, they sent them to Steve and Deb and Penn, and Steve sent them to me. I'll send that over to you guys now. Right. I'll send those over, and then if you want to review them, take a look at it, and then send me any questions you want to get them go from Mark, and then we'll get him on the schedule for next Wednesday.
Sounds like a
Any
plan.
other old business or new business for the capital committee? Hearing,
at this point, sounds like we're at a good start so far.
yeah, good plan, moving forward here. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion to adjourn? And then all those in favor by roll call, Connor,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Jim,
yes.
Mary,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you,
afternoon.
Brian.
Take care.
Yeah.